All right, Jared Thomas here for Evolution 1079, sitting in with Michael Daingerfield.
Bam! What is 1079 Evolution? What is it?
It's the BCIT's campus radio station.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Nice.
Legit low
So
power FM.
we're on the radio right now.
Well, you're going to be on the radio's YouTube channel. So
I love it. It's
still,
amazing.
The next best thing.
I know. No, it's amazing.
Right? So, Mike, you're a voiceover and an actor.
Yeah.
How did it all start for you?
It all started by me being just kind of a goofball with my voice when I was like 12 or 14 and just trying to do impressions all the time, trying to do voices and yeah, I just kind of got good at that. And then I did stand-up comedy when I was around 19 for the first time. I was just telling my partner that, Noel, that I went up and did a 5-minute routine. I went to university in the States, and it was called Mr. MSU, and I did about a 5-minute comedy routine, doing various impressions and stuff like that, and the crowd went nuts. They totally loved it, and I was like, yeah, maybe I could do this. You know what I mean? It was just sort of that realization of like, maybe there's an opportunity here to do that. And then, you know, I finished university, and I just didn't really want to kind of do an office job. And my father was in radio, my mom was in radio, actually both in business. And I was kind of like, maybe I could do the entertainment business. And I got the role of Ace Ventura on the animated series, and kind of never looked back.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that was the big kickoff point.
That was the big kickoff point, yeah. That was like, I was definitely, because once I got that, then I was like in TV Guide, and they were flying me to Los Angeles to work with Bob Ezrin, who produced The Wall, and we were doing CD-ROM games. I mean, it was insane. It was like, it was overnight, kind of what they say, where, you know, they were picking me up at the airport with my name on the card, and brought my girlfriend. I was like, what is going on right now? Like, it was crazy, right? But it was real, and it was a big deal. So after I got that, I was like, yep, I think I can do this.
And then what were some of kind of the highlights after that point for you?
Well, I've definitely had a few. I mean, recently, definitely loved playing Han Solo on Lego Star Wars. That was a big deal because we went through like a huge, it was like the casting process was massive. It was like, okay, come back again. Now we're gonna send the tapes to Lucasfilm at the ranch, and they're gonna sit around a boardroom table and listen to how good is your Harrison Ford, because they wanted it to be as authentic as possible, and so that was really cool because I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and it was just like, oh, this is cool. And we did some lines from the actual movie and then they'd sort of spin them. I don't know if you saw the show, but I got to say some classic lines in, you know, Han Solo's voice and stuff like that. So that was fun. Recently too, got on a show called Ninjago. I don't know if you guys know that show or not, but I played the lead villain in the most recent season. His name's Crux. It's kind of a badass. And other stuff is like, I was the narrator on Ice Pilots on the History Channel. I don't know if you know that. We did 6 seasons. Did about 73 episodes of that show.
So when you're like crafting, I guess it's different when you have somebody that you got to impersonate, like a Han Solo. But when you're starting from scratch and say you're playing the villain in a cartoon, how do you come up with that? Is it a voice you already kind of have, and then you kind of build it to fit the situation?
You kind of play with it, you know, like it's you like they give you like a character description, and they say we're looking for, and they give you like personality traits and all that stuff, and you kind of go through it, and you're like, you know, and you it certainly helps when the show's already been on air for 5 seasons, because you kind of know the flavor a bit, so you kind of get kind of what works and what wouldn't work. But yeah, you just sort of play around. You just kind of go like, wow, would this voice work here? How about this? And you sort of like start putting stuff out there with the dialogue and crafting a character, a person, you know, that lives in that real world, so to speak, right? And you know, you come up with options, and then it's all about like the flavor. Does the flavor work with the show? Is the show super cartoony? Okay, well, if it is, then is my character that I'm doing super cartoony? First of all, am I at least matching the level of cartooniness in the show? Am I at least doing that? Okay, yes, I am. You know, does it sound unique and interesting what I'm doing? Like, you know, and you sort of have to look at all those things, and then there's the acting component. Am I in the scene? Am I, you know, am I focused on what's happening in the scene? Because that's a huge part of it too when you do the audition. So there's a lot of layers. There really is. Some voices come quicker than others. Like sometimes you're like, you just feel it. There's something about sometimes they provide a picture of the character, and you know, you look at the picture and you're like I just got a character on a pilot, and I play a hot dog. He's like a hot dog in a bun, and he's had a bite taken out of him, and his name is Ernie. And this is all coming. I hope it gets picked up. It's really funny. But I just and he had this kind of smile on his face, like in the picture, and I was like, and he just kind of, I don't know, and I just kind of got like this feel, you know, for how, and I just sort of, it all started in the smile, and I was like, that's the voice. Mm-hmm. And I went and did it. They loved it, you know. I mean, he was obviously not too bright, and it just kind of worked. So I don't know. Sometimes it's like anything else, doing a song or a painting, some come quicker than others, you know. Mm-hmm.
So how competitive is the voice acting scene now?
It's pretty competitive, absolutely. I mean, you know, but the unique thing about the voiceover business now compared to like 10, 15, 20 years ago is that there's more content being produced more than ever. Whether it's a corporate video or an online video or a TV show or a movie, it's like there's content everywhere, and that content needs a voice. So you go to the airport and you hear like, you know, you do not leave your bag unattended. If you do, it will be like someone had to record that in the studio. Someone was paid to do that.
Yeah.
So there's so many ways and so many places where the voice shows up that I just think that's just more common now. So the reality of it, and this is what I tell my students, I just say, look, I mean, the reality is you got to be good. Like, don't think you're gonna walk in. Like, imagine you were trying to be a professional pianist. You know, would you think like, well, I can kind of do a few songs, like, can I get paid to do this? No, you wouldn't. You would totally make sure that you were like amazing at doing it before you even attempted to get hired by an orchestra or whatever, you know, a traveling type of orchestra or whatever. So that's the biggest thing that I tell people is that it's competitive. Why is it competitive? Well, because it's a lot of fun to go into a studio and, you know, make cartoon voices or do a really cool commercial or a narration series or, you know, and laugh and giggle and work with really creative people and make good money and walk out and you're like, oh, that didn't take that long and that was fun. And
so, like, what are some of the most popular voices that you kind of see out there that you know, get requested to do? Is there like a certain voice that
well, I definitely had to do Stewie Griffin there, and it was an excellent commercial that we did there. No, I did that. Definitely Homer Simpson, done him a few times. I like to just do the voice generally. What voices are? That's an interesting question. You mean like for like famous voices or for like just...
Or just like a style of voice that, you know, people are looking for that maybe you've noticed that you've kind of gone back to a couple times and...
There isn't really one. I don't know. I mean, maybe commercially that's more true because I have my specific voices that I do really well or my deliveries that I do for commercials that I, you know, that's because you have your wheelhouse in commercials. You do like, you know, Guy Next Door and Fun and Light and... you know, warm and sincere. It's like those are my wheelhouse reads for commercials. So that definitely gets requested a lot. But in terms of character stuff, I don't know. It's always changing. It's always like that's the thing. That's why you always got to be on your toes. And you know, what I do notice, like I just auditioned for a thing, and they were like, "Yeah, we want you to do like a Phil, what's his name, Phil Dunphy from Modern Family." We want a little bit of a flavor of him. Like it's almost like sometimes in, you know, cartoons, whatever's hot, and that's always been the role of cartoons is to parody live action film and TV, and you know it's happened forever. I mean the Honeymooners was based on the Flintstones was based on the Honeymooners, stuff like that, right? So I find that happens where you're, you know, they're like, yeah, throw in a little sort of slice of Phil Dunphy, you know, and you're kind of like, well. I mean, I guess I could, you know, like it kind of has that feel and, you know, whatever, but I try to stay away from that because then, like, you know, you watch back what they ended up going with and it has nothing to do with Phil Dunphy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's got zero to do with it. So I think it's more just, yeah, you got to kind of just stay on your toes and just present something interesting.
Yeah.
It's no different than any other performance business, right?
So when did you decide to transfer over to the teaching side of things?
That was in 2007. So I'd been full-time acting for about 10 years, around there, and I just thought, you know what? I used to teach tennis actually, and I taught tennis for years.
Yeah.
I was a tennis pro, because tennis was a huge part of my life before I kind of got into acting, and I thought, you know what, I understand teaching because I teach forehands and backhands and how to move on the court and all that stuff, and I sort of applied that knowledge of teaching into something else, you know, and so it kind of turned into, I was like, I think I could do like a voiceover class and do it once a week for 4 weeks, and other people do it in the town. I've seen them do it, and so yeah, 10 years ago we built a little tiny booth in a friend's art space at like Yukon and 6th, and it had a sliding glass door and, you know, a window on one side where I could see through, and then the students would kind of sit over there and watch, and I just started marketing, like, you know, Michael Daingerfield is doing voiceover classes, learn commercial animation, narration, all this stuff, and yeah, and then you know, I slowly started to build up a little bit of a following, and because I definitely had, even at that point, had a pretty good level of credits with the work I'd done, and then, you know, and then in about, I would say about 4 years later, because I was just doing it myself, maybe one class a month or something, or every other month, and then I was like, I think I'm gonna add on 4 or 5 or 6 instructors and have levels of curriculum. So I started that, and then we did that for, you know, I guess another 5 years, and then we got this place in September we were operational September of last year here. Yeah.
So like, what are kind of the things that students will go through here?
I could spend an hour on that.
Yeah.
I mean, the nuts and bolts of it are that we really try to have a comprehensive approach to voiceover education. So you start off in the foundations class, which is the bare bones beginning of it, so you can get a feel for like commercials, animation, and narration, and then from there you can move, and there's like a fork in the road, and you can either go into animation or commercial narration, and you know, and once you've kind of decided which way you're going, and some people can do both. I want to do animation and commercial narration, so they end up doing both development phases, and they keep, you know, developing both sides, and then from there you can start working with industry voice directors when you're ready, and get into like it's called our experience class for prelay, where you get to experience what it's like to record animation prelay style, which is how, like, I just recorded a show yesterday, and where you get 8 actors around 8 mics, and you got the script, and everybody reads their lines, and you run through it. You know, you run like through 2 pages at a time, and you run through 2 pages. Director gives notes, go back and do it again, do another run, more notes, and then you do pickups on the lines that still need to be reworked a little bit. And so we really do try to provide this comprehensive training, you know, with instructors who have 15 to 20 years experience. So that they're all the people like myself and Lee and Noel and who are, like, you know, all have international careers, have been nominated or won awards, and you know, kind of are some of the best in the city. But it's also, you know, we recognize that people want to express their talent of voice. That's what we're starting to realize, is that people, through voiceover as a vehicle, want to express themselves. Everybody does. Come on. I mean, everybody wants to, you know, maybe some people like to play the guitar, or some people want to tell a good story, or so that's what we're finding, is that, you know, so we can provide an avenue for people to express themselves via voiceover.
So being an actor and voiceover, like, what are some of the skills that kind of cross over?
Acting. Yeah, I mean, that's huge, right? Because you know, you're acting your pants off when you're doing voiceover. It's very, in some ways, it's very high level acting, because there's just so much going on, and you can only use your voice to communicate a lot of ideas. You know, if I'm on a set and I can, like, you know, I can do a particular way in which I look, or I can move my hands a particular way, or, way I walk, or like all these different things come into play, facial expressions, whereas with voice, all you have is your voice to right? So it takes a lot of focus. Yeah, the acting, the breaking down of the scenes, knowing where you are. I mean, I think the biggest difference between animation and film and TV acting is film and TV acting, you have to memorize your words, your dialogue, and the set and all the atmosphere is built for you and around you. And you can work off the other actor and they're there. And with animation, you don't have to memorize the lines, but you have to imagine the set and the atmosphere in the world.
Right.
So it's like the exact opposite, but you still get to work off the other actors too. Not all the time in animation. So like when I did Ace Ventura, I would do all the lines by myself. So I'd have to pretend, like I'd have to kind of hear their response and then respond and stuff like that. So the acting's the biggest component. I mean, vocal abilities come into play too. Like, that's why stage actors are comfortable doing voiceover. But it's very different. It's like film acting and voice acting, very different. So some people that try and cross over and they don't quite get that it all comes from here. And yet you use your physicality and your facial expressions as well. We're just happening to capture the voice with the microphone. So it's a very different performance art for sure.
So what are some of your goals with this school, and what would you like to see happen with this studio?
Well, I'd like to keep the lights on.
Always first and foremost.
Yeah. Well, we definitely would like to. We're still kind of developing some of our voiceover programs and filling out our whole comprehensive approach to what we're offering. So that's kind of being developed right now, just so that when you come in here, it basically, you can start at the beginning and go through various number of classes and then finish with a demo, and you'll have everything you need, which we essentially do have that now. But there's still some fine tuning to be done. It's like, running a school is a lot of work, and there's a lot of infrastructure to develop, and we're working on the marketing right now. I mean, it's a huge component, social media, just all that side of it. So yeah, I mean, what would I like? I would like to have a lot of people come through this program who find success in the voiceover business on their terms. Which would be really cool, because someone says, well, I want to make a living doing voiceover, and I went through on the mic and they helped me do it, then that's what I want. I want someone to come in here and who knows they have a bit of talent, they can work hard, and they can learn what they need to learn from the right people here. If they can, because that's a dream, right? I mean, it was like for me, when I got Ace Ventura, I remember I used to lay on my bed and I would be like, after I'd come home from a session, and I'd just be like, I can't believe I got this.
Yeah.
I was 24 years old, and and I was finishing these records, and I'd come home and I'd just be like, wow, this is pretty crazy. I'm impersonating one of the most famous comedians in the world on this cartoon that's going to be on CBS, and my voice is the lead. I'm on TV Guide. Like I was like, this is really happening. It's crazy. Even though I had done stand-up comedy, but it was really cool. It was like, my brother went through a similar experience. He got into voiceover for a period of time, and he was in Toronto doing it. And he got on a narration series called Mean Machines, which I think they played on Discovery or something. And he was telling me all about the process when he was going through callbacks and stuff like that. And he got the show, and he called me. And this was his first sort of experience of like going after a dream at that level and putting your butt on the line, because it's, you're putting your butt on the line when you're going for this, because, if you're not succeeding, people are like, oh, how's your career going? And you're like, well, I'm trying, but I haven't booked anything yet, or, it's vulnerable, right? And so he got the job, and he was crying. He was like, Mike, I got the Mean Machines. Like, he was crying and everything like that. And I was just like, that's what this place is about.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Mike, and cheers.
Cool. Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks a lot.